What links Israel with the instigators of recent racist violence in the UK? The answer lies in a global network of anti-Muslim and pro-Israel politicians, think tanks and philanthropists which have been funding and promoting the UK's leading far-right figures.
Put them on boats and send them back! They have to rise up to defend their families.
So who are these figures? The most notorious is Tommy Robinson. Robinson is the former leader of the English Defence League, an openly racist, anti-Muslim and anti-migrant movement. The EDL effectively disbanded in 2013, but the movement continued around the actions of Tommy Robinson, his court appearances, imprisonment and mobilising people against migrants and Muslims. His most recent rally, which included many Israel supporters, pulled a crowd of around 20,000 people in London just days before the riot started. Misinformation spread across far-right social media accounts sparked the violence. They falsely named the culprit in an appalling stabbing attack on children in northern England on the 29th of July as a Muslim.
His name is Ali Al-Kati, a very Welsh-sounding name.
It later turned out he was a UK-born Christian with Rwandan heritage. Far-right protesters hijacked a vigil for the dead children and mobilised a mob to attack a mosque. The violence then spread across the UK and included racist attacks on Muslims, Asian Britons, Black Britons and asylum hotels. But Robinson's links to Israel go much deeper than flags at his rallies. Robinson has long considered himself a Zionist.
I notice you're wearing a shirt or a button that says I'm a Zionist. What's a Zionist?
Well, a Zionist is someone who believes in a homeland for Jewish people.
The English Defence League had a Jewish division run by former IDF soldier Roberta Moore, which later named itself the Jewish Defence League after a Jewish terror group and used the logo of another terror group, the Kahanist movement. Robinson was, and possibly still is, funded by pro-Israel anti-Muslim organizations based out of the US. One source of funds, according to a Guardian investigation, is tech billionaire Robert Shillman, who, until recently was a director of the Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, has funded Dutch extreme right politician Geert Wilders, and funds journalism at the far-right news outlet Rebel Media. The Times of London spoke to a former colleague of Robinson, Lucy Brown, who said Shillman paid $11,000 a month for him to work there.
What is far right about my views? That's all I want to know.
Rebel Media journalists have also got money from another pro-Israel organisation called the Middle East Forum. The MEF paid $60,000 for Robinson's legal fees after he was arrested for contempt of court in 2018. And organised a far-right rally for him in London. The director of this organisation is Greg Roman, a former Israeli government employee and once the coordinator of activities in the West Bank for Israel's Department of Defense. He told the Middle East Monitor in an email that MEF regrets funding the event supporting Mr. Robinson, and despite many articles in support of Mr. Robinson remaining on their website, they have supposedly cut all ties with him. Robinson travelled to Israel in 2016 on a guided tour that saw him pose on an Israeli tank with a gun, wear an IDF t-shirt in the West Bank, and even visit a Bethlehem refugee camp.
I was very nervous when we were going into a Palestinian refugee camp. I hugely benefited from walking around that camp.
Despite this humbling experience, he more recently called Palestine a shithole full of inbred Islamist parasites and terrorists, above a poster saying, F Palestine. Rebel Media, according to a former employee, Lauren Southern, took their staff on guided tours of Israel. Southern was fired because she questioned the need to fundraise for a state-sponsored trip.
It became pretty obvious that this was a guided tour, not a fact-finding mission.
Another figure of the British far-right, Katie Hopkins, who was one of the key figures along with Robinson that contributed to starting the riots, was one of those taken by Rebel Media on a sponsored trip to Israel.
All I can hear is the call to prayer. I feel like I'm being tortured in a cell by Al-Qaeda.
Hopkins is an extreme right personality and shock jock known for calling migrants cockroaches and vermin in national newspapers, and has been using her social media accounts of 2 million plus followers to help spread misinformation and mobilize the racist marchers. Her video, falsely giving an Arab-sounding name to the Southport child killer, is still online. Hopkins loves Israel. She launched her conspiracy-laden documentary there. She gives regular talks, meets with Israeli officials, and pro-Israel groups love her. Like Robinson, she was a Shillman Fellow at Rebel Media, financed by Robert Shillman, the tech billionaire, and run through another anti-Muslim group, according to Vice News, called the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Katie is a regular speaker at their events, paid to deliver humorously racist after-dinner speeches and spew anti-Muslim hate.
Unlike my Muslim friends who have 15 under the age of 3. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't have any Muslim friends.
So why are most of the far-right leaders in not only Britain but around Europe supporting Israel? Robinson started out in the British National Party, a successor to the National Front. Both were deeply anti-Semitic and racist movements, but more closely aligned with mid-20th century fascist ideologies like Nazism. And now anti-Muslim and anti-migrant hate is the primary agenda of these groups. Their Islamophobia has made them natural allies of other supremacist ideologies like Zionism in Israel or Hindu nationalism in India. So the war in Gaza, an occupation of Palestine, and the recent wave of racist violence in the UK are connected by a network of pro-Israel and anti-Muslim organizations who are promoting hate against Muslims in Britain while supporting the ethnic cleansing and military occupation of Muslims in Palestine.